a universal experience at Ignatius that every student, I think, experiences and experiences growth in is definitely the aspect of faith. Saint Ignatius just does a great job of providing opportunities for students to expand their faith and learn more about, Catholicism and the Church. And it's just something that I think everyone um, has experienced at Ignatius in one way or another, whether it be retreats, through theology classes, and it really is an integral part of our education at Ignatius.
Yeah, I mean, so I think this should be a really powerful and interesting episode, right? And I guess we're not completely sure where it could go. I mean, everybody has obviously very different experiences, but I mean, like you said, faith is really the foundation of Saint Ignatius. And we saw that, and I mean, the sports video, the service one so far, right? And extracurriculars, those are a lot of what helps build this community and this purpose on the field and in the classroom. And like you said, it's a universal thing that binds us together. And I think what should be really cool about this video is that, like you said, everybody in our school at some point is going through some faith journey, right? And it's usually pretty extensive and a lot of great moments in the 4 years. And it really is a process through retreats and theology classes and service and sports and all of that. So I'm really hoping to learn about these faith journeys, right? But also, especially with this pandemic, I mean, we're sort of getting a taste of what it's like to not be safe in our faith, right? We can get really comfortable at St. Ignatius. But now that we're at home, we're sort of getting a taste of what the real world is like. So it should be interesting to hear from some of the guys about their time through COVID and their faith life. But also, just like all the other ones, all the great memories, all the great moments. And I mean, this is the foundational part of all of our videos. So this will be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I was just gonna say it's so strange how school ended so abruptly, and there were so many things that were ended because of it that we did on a daily basis. But in many ways, we carry those things with us every day. One of those things is faith that we learned at St. Ignatius. So I just wanted to ask you how the aspect of faith has been affected in your life as a result of St. Ignatius and our school year abruptly ending.
Yeah, so I think that the biggest thing that St. Ignatius does is provide opportunities for kids to take advantage of. I definitely had the opportunity to go to Mass at least like 4 or 5 days a week if I wanted to, just because of Ignatius, and they had those opportunities. So,
yeah, I mean, faith is definitely a huge part of my life, and it was a huge part of my experience at Ignatius. Senior year, I ate lunch pretty much every day in campus ministry with like a bunch of guys that were in there. Is just a good place to hang out. And, I was involved with like ministry through there, I was Eucharistic minister this year, and, I tried to be involved in service and stuff. So, obviously it's a huge part of what I do.
And then obviously the diocese shut down the sacrament, Mass, like for everybody. So that was a bit of a transition for me, just because I find so much, not just comfort, but like meaning in the Eucharist. And I think that's a very, very important part of not just my life, but like in everybody's life. So,
well, I think that the hardest part for me is not being able to go to church in person. Certainly you can have a spiritual prayer of communion, but it's just not the same being able to share in the Mass with your fellow parishioners and my family. So that's, I think in terms of faith life, that's been the hardest for me.
to have that kind of evaporate just like that. That was a little tough at first, but I think the best part about whether it's an epidemic or any sort of hardship is just that just as it kind of takes away certain opportunities and certain aspects of your faith, it also gives you a lot of opportunities, like new opportunities. So for me, that kind of manifested in just giving me a lot more time to spend more personal time, like reading the Bible and things like that.
But I think that with this, the Catholic faith and us in particular are going to come out stronger and more on fire for Christ than before.
And obviously it's a big transition, you know, having that community around me every day and then coming home where, you know, my family's great, but it's like a different community, you know. So I think it's just a little bit of adjustment. I think we've all adjusted in similar ways.
And as far as school goes, I usually like going to Gonzaga Society every Tuesday morning, and it's disappointing that I can't be with Mr. Gala or Hennessy, all the guys, and but it's good that Mr. Gala has been sharing with us some intentions to read and pray for throughout the week. So
we've heard similar stories on how people are kind of finding new ways to try to live out their faith at home, and they are having these new opportunities like you talked about for reflection and bonding. So it's good to see that guys are still being able to live that out. But I wanted to ask you if you could just maybe walk us through, I don't know, maybe like your faith journey through your high school career, like maybe progression, how you've seen it grow just in the past 4 years.
Coming into freshman year, I mean, I've kind of grown up Catholic my entire life. It's always kind of been a big part of my life, and like my family, we always went to church, we'd pray rosaries together and things like that. So coming into freshman year, I kind of already had that foundation kind of laid, which I'm super grateful for. My parents have been.
Family's pretty good, like we're pretty solid in our faith. So I kind of came in with a pretty good understanding of like the church and faith and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I felt like I always took like theology classes pretty seriously. Like even starting freshman year, I enjoyed theology classes. I know some people don't enjoy them, but I really did enjoy them.
Yeah, I think my faith has changed a bit. My beliefs are relatively the same.
So I think that helped, just like taking that seriously. That really helped me like just grow in my knowledge of the faith and understanding. But I think I got an email like the summer before junior year started about like the opportunity to have a spiritual director of one of the campus ministers. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And, you know, just get to meet with one of the campus ministers. I had Mr. Luisi. I got to meet with him every week.
But freshman year and 8th grade year, my prayers were more of request and just like, Lord, please help me with this. Lord, if it's not my will, but can I do this, blah, blah, blah. Now it's more of almsgiving and thanks. So I think my prayer life has changed that way.
The biggest thing for me in terms of growing in my faith at Ignatius has been going to Mass on campus and like throughout the school day and having the opportunity to receive the Eucharist like on a very consistent basis. Now, to be honest, I haven't always taken advantage of that as much as I think I could have. Like, there were definitely periods in freshman and sophomore year.
You know, it was pretty great. You know, I just could talk pretty much about anything, and he'd help me like with my prayer life and with all that stuff, and it would help me, you know, just grow closer to God.
And then Ignatius kind of, I think, like I said, it just provides opportunities. Nothing ever feels forced or fake there, I think. But it just kind of, as I grew through my 4 years here, looking back, I think that I started to take more ownership for my faith. I'm sure people say that all the time, but I really started to dive more into the intellectual side of not just my faith, but the Catholic faith in general, and reading more about like early church and the saints.
And I think it comes with kind of seeing towards the future and just being kind of beyond the high school horizon and looking to college, kind of starting to develop my thoughts about what I want to do when I'm older, what I want to do as an adult. So I think in many ways that my thinking and my prayer life has changed that way.
I think by focusing on that kind of intellectual side of it, I kind of gained a more spiritual appreciation for my faith.
Through that, like, it's not like it's a big change, like it's instantly I just become like a saint, but like just over time it helped me to just, you know, grow closer to God and see God in other people and help other people, you know.
So I was wondering if you could maybe walk us through your retreat experiences. I know like you had plans for a retreat this year later, and then maybe your junior retreat, and just talk to us about those experiences.
Yeah. So I went on COPE in the spring last year for my junior retreat, and I really enjoyed that. It was a group of guys that like I never really had hung out with before, but I had like a few good friends on it. But like other than that, I didn't really know many other guys. Like it's weird because we all go to school together, but you see people and you're like, I know that person, but I don't really know them. So like getting to go on retreat with those guys was pretty great because I got to get closer with some of my classmates that I usually don't.
My wilderness retreat junior year was a really special time, and it's probably one of my most favorite moments or period of time. While at Ignatius, we had great leaders. We had Mr. Nolan, Mr. Pecco, Mr. Betts. We had a great group of guys. It was just a great experience to be out in the outdoors in beginning of October. The weather was beautiful. The whole thing was amazing.
And then, you know, we just all get to grow in our faith together. So I think it's really great. And then for this year, I was supposed to lead a new retreat with some other seniors called the Emmaus retreat, but then it had to get canceled because it was, you know, during this whole thing. So we're going to do a virtual retreat now, and they've had us working on like our talks, and we're going to do it over Zoom. I think it'll be different, but I think it'll be good for the guys who haven't had a retreat this year.
I remember a story about how accidentally forgot to put oil in our supply packs for food, and it was kind of like a topic of discussion for the entire retreat, but we were fine. We were able to apportion some of the oil from my group and other groups to help the one group. And when we were having lunch one day, there was a massive bottle of olive oil in a tree. Perfect olive oil. And it was like a miracle. It was crazy. Wow. So my wilderness retreat was really special. That was a great time.
I was wondering if I could get your take on maybe your favorite theology class, most impactful.
My favorite class was probably first semester freshman year with Mr. Prokop.
I think I'd have to go with Mr. Betts' social justice class last semester, first semester senior year. Going into it, it was a very new class here. I think this was the first year that it was offered, so I didn't really know what to expect. But the biggest thing that I really appreciated about that class and Mr. Betts in particular was he always had like a plan for the class, even though it was new and we were all kind of learning together. He had a plan for where he wanted to go and how he wanted our learning, like what he wanted us to learn and things like that. But
he was really he hammered a lot of stuff into us, and I like a lot of Old Testament theology, and we did a lot of work with the Bible.
But I definitely remember a favorite theology class. It was first semester this year. I had Mr. Brennan for Christian Manhood. That class was great because it was it was like very discussion based. It wasn't like your regular theology class. So I would say that class was definitely one of my favorite classes here at Ignatius. Like not just theology classes, but like one of my favorite classes.
He was always willing to have conversations about like difficult things, and he wasn't just kind of like throwing the church's teaching at us and moving on. We had a lot of really, really good conversations about not just like social justice topics, but just like faith topics in general.
He had a very like old school approach to how he did for how he did stuff, and I really liked his class, to be honest. That was a really good class.
But somehow we got on the topics of heaven and hell, and we spent the rest of like that 45 minutes just like talking about the theology of heaven and the afterlife and what all that means, like, and how that impacts what we do in the day-to-day. And it was like not related to what we were learning at all, but I think that was great that Mr. Betts was willing to just like let that happen and let us see that our call to justice as Catholic Christians is like rooted in something that is so far beyond anything of this world. Like, we don't just do justice for the sake of justice. We do justice for the sake of Christ and his call.
I just wanted to ask you, obviously, if say you didn't go to Saint Ignatius and you went to like a school that didn't put an emphasis on faith, how do you think that faith at Saint Ignatius has made an impact on your high school career?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely improved it. I mean, so if I went to Brecksville High School, it'd be different because there'd be like the similar things of like sports and like academics, but then there wouldn't be that like overarching idea that like we're all here, like we all are committed to like service in some ways, or we're committed to like God in some ways.
I think during Ignatius I've had a lot of ups and downs, just with regard of applying to college, playing soccer, even with school, the whole balancing school and extracurriculars was very difficult for me, especially junior year.
It'd just be different. So I think having that ability to like know that most people that I walk through the halls with are like, they kind of agree with me on most things about God and religion and stuff like that. That's kind of like reassuring to know that you have people like on your side, and, people that will back you up and stuff in most situations.
And eventually I think I want to pick up either a double major or a minor in theology. And I think what Ignatius has done the most, I don't know if this is directly related to the faith side of things, but it kind of gave me a direction for those majors. Just like throughout the time I was here, those are the things that really got me excited and I actually enjoyed learning about the most.
So I'd say that the faith that Ignatius really tries to emphasize with us is present and really important, because I have a belief that there's a reason why this is happening. There's a reason why I'm struggling, and God has a greater purpose for what's going on. So I think I've really developed that over my 4 years at Ignatius.
But Ignatius, the opportunities that it gave me, like, just helped me realize how important it is that I stay grounded in my faith and in everything that's like gotten me to the point where I am today. Just because there were so many times throughout my 4 years where I realized that there's no way that I could have made it to this point in my life on my own, whether it was because of my teachers or my parents or friends. And I think that the biggest thing that Ignatius has given me is that sense of gratitude and like not taking anything for granted, which I hope to take to my next 4 years and beyond that.
Yeah, I think what makes it just our situation so special is that we're being given the opportunity to do more than just have a academic education. We're truly having like a formative experience throughout our 4 years, and every year it becomes more complex. We like to ask everybody if they have any advice for underclassmen or younger guys.
If I was gonna say something to 8th grade me, I'd probably say buy into the culture early, because probably for like freshman year and a little bit of sophomore year, I was just kind of like going through the motions of being at Ignatius without really getting involved in things other than sports.
For me, I love to go to like the Companions Chapel for Mass during free periods a couple days a week. Opportunities like that.
Well, looking in hindsight, I remember the last day we had before Mike DeWine had his press conference, and he said that everything was closing down. And I don't think at that time I really appreciated, and I frankly took for granted my days and time at Saint Ignatius.
And I would just say, like, buy in early and get involved as soon as you can, because, you know, it's a great time. You don't know. For us, like, we really don't know when it's going to end. So, yeah.
Obviously, all the service that we do, campus ministers are awesome. Like, just being able to, like, go in and talk to anybody about your faith, and to, like, have meaningful conversations about it with both your peers and with people who have more life experience than you. I think that's something that's really unique to Ignatius, just that ability to do that.
So I would say, for all those who are hesitant or cautious about getting their feet into the water with religion, theology, or prayer, that you should really take seriously the opportunities that Ignatius offers you to grow in faith and to be to fulfill the grad and to be spiritual.